Hi, everybody. My name is Rishi, and I'm here with Dr. Nupur Agarwal. And we started this. We did a talk before, and we thought we should do more of them. And we're calling them. It's kind of a series we're doing. We're calling it Conscious Conversations. And I've been chatting a lot with Nupur on this, and I just want to give you a little bit of a background as to what we want to do. In fact, we got quite a good feedback from the few people that came, and they said, you guys should do this more often. And then we said, okay, at least people are enjoying these conversations, and even if they're online, so be it. So yeah, so today's topic is going to be the power of mind body connection. And basically, I guess Nupur will talk more about that, but I just want to give you a quick introduction for those of you that are meeting Nupur for the first time. Nupur is a medical doctor, and basically, she, instead of doing the regular medical practice, she chose to study and work in mind body medicine. She's been practicing for many years now, and she specializes in a few modalities like mindfulness, medical hypnotherapy, EFT, and many more. These are the three that I've had the opportunity to interact with her on. And I have to say, they've been fabulous. And in the next series, I want to talk more about the results that I've got from some of the recent work that we've done together. And she's had many patients with cancer and other chronic health conditions. And so, yeah, that's where she works. Her work is on. I met Nupur and Ashish actually together from Mindful Living, which is a different organization run by Ashish. Nupur is also part of that. And I've attended her EFT workshop. And yeah, I will also put the link of the previous talk for those of you guys that find this interesting and may want to know what we spoke about earlier. I'll send all of you guys so that you all can watch it. And this recording also, I'll make it available. So many times people come a little late, so hopefully they'll be able to watch the beginning again. All right, so that's about all. I think let's just dive into this, and we'll have Nupur talk to us. I've got a bunch of questions. Nupur, can I just start off, or did you want to say something before I start sending you all the
Um,
questions?
yeah, I am excited to be here, Rishi, and it's completely so happy to be here because I think this is my passion more than anything else. It's not really a profession, and I'm so happy that so many of you have actually found this topic interesting. This is actually me and Rishi getting together sometimes when we have time during our diaries in the middle of the day, towards the end of his, and just talking about a lot of powerful things. And we thought, this is so powerful, the message should go out, and we should definitely share this with everybody. And not everything resonates with everybody, as we know. Everybody has their own favorite topics to discuss and deal with. So this is one of our favorite topics, and this is my field of work, which is more like passion, as I said, than a profession. So I'm honored to be here to be talking about something that's so profound, that impacts all of us, at such deep levels of our health, especially now that we have been all going through a pandemic and with life throwing all sorts of curveballs at us. So, I think it's high time we talk about this topic. So yeah, thank you for hosting it, Rishi. And thanks to everybody for actually coming in and participating. It'd be nice to see some faces. So if any of you can switch on your web cameras, that'd be lovely.
Wait, let me see.
Otherwise, this is good.
Participant to start video. Yeah, I've just put the mute option right now on. So you want me to turn on the unmute so that they can unmute themselves and say hello, or should we wait for that for the end when we do Q&A? What do you think?
I'm okay with whatever flows. So however you think is right. Either way is okay.
Okay, so then let's do one thing. Let us keep it on mute for a while. And if somebody wants to ask a question and doesn't want to chat so much, then I think in the reactions, is there something
I
like,
think they can raise their hands as well, right?
yes, under the reactions box, I don't know if it's available on the mobile also, but there's a raise hand thing. If any of you guys raise hand, I'll see you guys raise hand, and then we can open up I keep the hand raised like that so that I can see it even at the end. Open up your mics one by one so that we can have it. Hey, some people decide to put the camera. Hey, good to see you guys.
Hello, lovely to see everybody.
Right.
I can't see. I think because I'm spotlighted. That's not fair.
No.
Okay.
You can go to go to view on the top right, and then you can
Okay.
speak.
All right. Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
I think if you choose speaker gallery, speaker not
Yeah.
if you choose gallery, you'll see everybody. But if you choose
Yes.
speaker, you'll see I think a few people on top. Maybe I don't know. Have you maximized your window to the full screen?
Yes. I can see now. I'm managing. I'm the gallery view. So that's good.
Okay, great. So can I dive in and ask my questions, please?
Yes, please. Let's get started. And thanks once again, everybody, for being here.
Yeah. So before, because I've given a bit of your background, but I wanted you to talk about your experience. I just mentioned that although you are a medical doctor, you chose to study mindfulness and all of these things. So, talk to us about your experience, because I think I'm not too sure whether we mentioned enough of that in the last talk, and how you arrived at this understanding of mind body connection, because somebody who comes from the medicine world of medicine, it's all about, these are the chemicals and this is how they react and this is what will happen in the body. So why did you shift? What happened? Maybe if you could just give us a little background.
Yeah, sure. So, Rishi, what happened was that I was working as a clinician. I did my specialization in oral medicine and radiology, and I was working very closely with oral cancer in India. And so what happened was that it was a space that is, fraught with medical interventions, surgical interventions. And, it's a daily running of, the application of medicine, surgery, and the typical delivery of that to the patients. And I was noticing that there was something very typical about the fact that we could almost see certain patients with the same diagnosis and prognosis responding to the same treatment in a very different way. So other parameters were quite similar, but the way they were recovering, the way they were responding was very different. And that was actually due to their attitudes. A
Mm,
lot of So it was almost fascinating for me as a young clinician to notice that the attitude of a person was actually a major determinant of how well they're going to be, of their well-being, of their responsiveness to our typical modality, whether we are doing medicine or whether we are doing surgery, the outcome, the speed of recovery. And that's what started coming to me very deeply in my practice was a sense of understanding what was that missing piece of the puzzle that was actually helping people to recover faster and actually heal completely as well.
right,
And when you're dealing with something like cancer, it's not just one part of the body, it affects all parts of the body. It has a massive impact on a person's quality of health, quality of life.
right,
And it also impacts the family members very closely, and their entire quality of life for the entire family gets deeply impacted, financial, and so much goes into that. And that's when I understood that our minds, our emotions have a deep role to play in the way we actually perceive a diagnosis, a threat in our life, and
mm,
the way that we are able to come out of it. So
okay,
it was very clear to me that yes, medicine has a place, surgery has a place, but what's going on in a person's mind and in the emotional space is actually a major determinant of their well-being.
okay,
And then I just started, and our conventional medical training doesn't teach us these techniques. It doesn't teach us this space. So it
mm,
is actually left to you to discover this on your own. So I was very privileged early on in my career that I had some very inspiring patients who
mm,
actually prodded me to go deeper into the mind body medicine space rather than the conventional medicine space. And I
right,
found it so exciting that I finally transitioned completely into this space. Now I'm completely into mind body healing and coaching, and that's what I do to help, because it's very empowering, Rishi.
right,
You what I used to find was that when somebody was ill or they were diagnosed with somebody, they would just take their bodies to the doctor, and I used to compare almost like taking your car to a mechanic.
right,
It's like fix. It's like can you just fix the car? Can you fix the body?
right.
And that's something which I found was so disempowering, because we have a lot that we can influence ourselves in a very positive way. So how can we empower everybody to understand that they have a key role to play in their well-being, and they don't have to outsource themselves to any healthcare professional, and kind of be a participant in their recovery. So for me, that's the space that I come from, and that's what I intend to share with everyone.
Fabulous. Very nice. So, if you could dive into a little bit about how emotions actually influence the body. I mean, how do these thoughts and emotions, is there like a science behind this? Can you talk a little bit about that as to how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually, if we really think of, we have a nervous system, and there's a huge branch of our nervous system which is called the autonomic nervous system. Now, a lot of processes in our body are very automatic. Like, we are not controlling most of the things in our body. The kidneys are filtering on their own, the heart is beating on its own, the breath is also breathing on its own. Everything is involuntary, it's autonomic. And there are further two parts of this nervous system, which is, without getting into too much technicalities, we have something called the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay.
Now, simple terms, what it means that besides a lot of other things that they do, a major thing that these nervous systems help us to do is either be in a stress response, which is called the fight, flight, or freeze response. And the second is the well-being response, or the rest and relaxation response.
Okay.
And it is now researched that the thoughts that we have can actually trigger our fear and flight response. And the emotions so thoughts typically lead to behaviors. And so there's a vicious cycle of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, which is almost, it's like a chicken and egg. Sometimes you wonder whether the emotion comes first or the thought comes first.
Yeah.
But if you look at any significant event in your life, your thoughts about that event and your emotions about that event go hand in hand. And a lot of times what happens is our own thoughts and our own emotions can trigger either a cascade of biochemical responses in the body, which cause us to consider a situation very threatful. And that's what we have evolved from. We have all evolved as people who have come from the cave, as cave dwellers. Our ancestors were cave dwellers. And that time, our principal key thing was survival. So to survive, we needed the stress response. We needed to either flee or fight. Otherwise, the tiger would eat you up. Right. So that response was needed. It's a survival instinct in us. But right. Now what happens is, because the nature of our stress has become so chronic, sometimes because of external factors and sometimes because of our inability to manage it through understanding how to think and feel better, this response is forever triggered. It's like having a foot on your accelerator constantly in the car. So, this is forever racing. It's forever racing. And that's one thing which I want everybody to understand today is that we are very rich biochemical factory within us. Right. So we produce the most powerful hormones, neurotransmitters, and chemicals in our own body. And a lot of these are what are creating a space either of allowing us to heal and recover, or creating a space of unrest, inflammation, and resulting in chronic diseases and stress-related diseases. It's almost like become so common parlance in consultation rooms today that your doctor will say, stress less. Your condition is because of stress. But nobody's actually telling us, Rishi, that what is this stress?
Yeah.
Not all stress is bad, but understanding that because our thoughts and emotions can actually trigger a whole biochemistry. So if I can tell you that cortisol is one of our stress hormones, which is released when we are constantly thinking stressful thoughts. And the emotions that we feel, emotions of hurt, pain, anger, jealousy, all these emotions have a place in the body that they get, that the body holds them. Also, we must understand that body is not a random accumulation of organs thrown together. We haven't been able to produce a whole human organism in the laboratories yet because it's a very complicated machine. It's actually not just a machine, it's an energy field. Right. Okay. And now we are understanding that our bodies are actually a piece of the universe itself, because each and every cell, the more detail you go into each and every nucleus, you'll see that what is happening in the nucleus is exactly what's happening in the galaxies, like a solar system, right? So we must understand that it's an intelligent field.
Okay.
And our thoughts and emotions are actually influencing that field. Now we have to understand how is that happening.
Okay. So how does that? So for example, okay. So if you're saying the body is capable of creating these chemicals inside of us, which is, as you said, it's like on accelerator mode, and we're just constantly in fear mode and stress mode, and it's impacting us because that is only meant for a short period of time. But then when we go into the deep sleep or period of time, we're supposed to have that. Am I still audible? Did I lose you guys for a bit?
Yeah, you for a few moments you had frozen. So fight, flight, and freeze, you had frozen with a response, stress response.
I got
Yeah,
to freeze a little bit. Okay,
yeah,
so it because these chemicals are released, right, and so it impacts the health because we're constantly releasing these chemicals. Um, how, but like, what are the? Have you been able to measure it? Can you share some evidence
yeah.
on this is what you were going through? This is the chemicals that got released, and as a result of that, you know, this is what happened. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what happens is, Rishi, that so as I was discussing that, our body is a very active field of energy that can actually store emotions, that can store stress. And a lot of PTSD, it's called post-traumatic stress disorder, which is seen very commonly in war veterans, people who have been in wars and combat forces. But it's not just with that, people who have had abuse in their life, victims of abuse, and more, and that's going bigger. But anything that a person perceives traumatic for them is traumatic. It doesn't have to be, they don't have to be a war person, a army personnel, or anybody in the combat forces. Now that all that gets stored in our body, and it actually causes, now anybody who suffers from PTSD would know that bodily reactions are very severe. And it's something very simple for us to understand, that when we are thinking, or sometimes when we are thinking back of our painful memory or something that causes us stress, we can feel the emotions right now. So even before we go to the evidence of anything, I want us to all understand that if I ask you to imagine something that was stressful, even now you will speak with that kind of emotional charge. You'll feel your heart is racing. You can almost feel yourself getting triggered emotionally, physically, when you're on a stage delivering a speech which is very difficult. Sometimes we see that our hands become clammy, and sweaty. Our mouth becomes dry because of fear of public speaking. If somebody compliments you, you tend to blush, you tend to become red in the face. So actually our body is a very intelligent field that is forever manifesting emotions. So
Mm,
before we even go into the clinical research that's telling us, let's understand that this is not rocket science. If we really focus, we'll understand that our body's mirroring our emotions all the time. We feel when knots in the stomach, when there is a difficult conversation with the boss to happen, or when there is something very something like a presentation coming up. Maybe it's one of those year end reviews. You do feel knots in the stomach, you do get loosies a lot of times when just before something very, very significant. So your body is forever processing these emotions, and that's what I would like everybody to understand, that see how your body is responding to various experiences in your life.
mm,
And the more we focus on that, the more we'll realize that actually, unless understood, our body starts to store these emotions and thoughts, and they get triggered
mm,
and cause a lot of dis-ease processes. So cortisol, so I have personally done mindfulness courses in London. I'm based in London, and I've done it for patients, 6 to 8 weeks of mindfulness courses where we measure cortisol. So
mm.
cortisol is a stress hormone,
Okay.
which we release in our bodies all the time. And this can be actually measured through salivary assays. And it was significant to see the amount of cortisol pre-sessions and post-sessions.
Nice.
Just by doing some rounds of meditative practices, how much the cortisol in our body can come down. And actually, this cortisol and other hormones and neurotransmitters, they can, impact our body in such detrimental ways that even our immunity comes down. It has a very deep immunosuppressive effect, to the extent that if somebody gets an organ transplant, they're given immunosuppressants externally. Like cortisol is given externally to people, which we are manufacturing internally in a stressful situation. So, these are very important things. And one more thing, as to show you for evidence sake, if people can see my screen, I'm going to share something.
Yeah.
Just give me a moment. And it's a study that was done. It's a very fascinating study.
Okay.
And this study was done by Finnish researchers,
Okay.
where they actually mapped the emotions which are being expressed in various different parts of the body.
Right.
So I'm just going to share screen. Rishi, let me know if you can see it.
Not yet. Go ahead. Yes. Now we are seeing. Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
Can we see this now?
Yeah, you can see.
So I would like everybody to really look at this image. It's a very fascinating image where this study was done with people across religions. It was a Finnish study. It was studied in people with over 18, and men and women alike of all different race, ethnicity, and religious backgrounds. And they found very amazing similarities in the way they talked about the way they stored emotions. So if I ask you, where do you feel fear? Where do you feel anger? Where do you feel happiness? And this is a body map that was created by studying hundreds of patients' data. And this goes to show to us that our bodies are actually absorbing and storing a lot of these emotions without even us realizing. We're like sponges. And unless we understand that our emotions, our thoughts trigger such deep impact on our body, what happens is the diseases start to continue to manifest in the body, and the diseases continue to progress, but we are not able to understand that by addressing the emotional component of a disease, we can actually make a patient's life much better. We can improve their quality of life. We can enhance their healing and recovery rate, which is now a fact. We have so many studies that are telling us, are you dealing with your anger? Are you dealing with your resentment? Are you dealing with your, grief, loss? If you haven't, then please do something about that, because that is creating your high blood pressure states. That is creating your cardiac arrhythmias. That is causing increasing in your blood sugar levels, leading to you taking a higher doses of medication. A lot of times these also, our stress and fight, flight, or freeze response causes inflammation of the body. Inflammatory markers, cytokines, they go up. And the more stressed we are, the more emotionally vulnerable we are without processing our emotions. A lot of us store emotions in the body because we in a society are not allowed to express. And we don't even know how to express our emotions in a manageable way. So what happens is, because we store it, it increases the inflammation. And most of our health conditions, like cardiovascular events, which happen like stroke, heart attacks, all of these are because of increased inflammation. Inflammation goes up. You react, you get allergies. So it's so important for us to understand that this is, once the disease happens, then it becomes very medical oriented. You just are told to pop in medicines and pills. Right. But my intention with my work is to create awareness so that people know that you can do something at this level. You can do something to prevent. Are you taking care of are you having hygiene of your thoughts? Do you know how to manage your thinking? How aware are you of emotions? Are you aware of your body as an energy field? Because we stay so much in our minds that we have forgotten how do we relate with our bodies. And when the body breaks down, we just take it like a car to the mechanic, we take it to the hospital. So, it's really time for us to sit up and take focus of ourselves. And that is the intention. Like, for the lack of time, I can't go through so many studies, right. But I would really urge people to go through, there is something called epigenetics. There is something called neuroplasticity. So if I have a moment, I would really like to discuss something which is called the epigenetics. Rishi, do we have time?
Yeah, we could. We've only got half an hour, so we have another 30 minutes to go. And
yeah. Okay, perfect. And I hope people are, really thinking of these things and recording questions that are coming to their mind, because, it'd be lovely to have an interaction towards the end.
Yeah.
For the longest time, we feel that we are victims of our genetic code. We hear in our families that, oh, this so and such condition runs in my family. My grandfather, my grandmother had it, my dad has it, my mom has it, so obviously I'll have it. It's almost like our genes have become our death sentence. It's because I hear these things in my clinical practice, so it's so sometimes it's so disheartening as a clinician to see people believe. And there's one more thing I want to really talk about with epigenetics is the power of our beliefs. So when we talk about thoughts and emotions, we have to really understand something which is very powerful called the power of our beliefs. If you believe that just because your dad has had cancer, you're going to have cancer, then 100% you'll bring it on. That is the power of your belief. And that's why we talk about things like placebo effect and nocebo effect. So people who are really interested in these topics, please go up and research what is a placebo effect. Now, if I can quickly say before I talk about epigenetics, in World War II, there was an intense shortage of morphine, which was a painkiller, pain medication. Soldiers were losing arms, legs, everything. They needed to be injected with morphine. Literally, we were needing them to go back to the walls, and go back and heal. Now, what happens was morphine was in short supply. So a doctor ingeniously started injecting saline. And all that he did was he didn't tell the soldier. He said, I'm giving you the injection. Very sweetly he spoke, very convincingly he spoke. And the effect of the saline is nothing but salt solution. The effect of saline was just as powerful as the morphine.
What was it? Because the human mind created
it is the human mind's ability to believe something and believe it to the point of fruition. And that's what's called placebo effect. What we believe about, we bring about. And that is the power we have of our beliefs.
So I have a question here. All this data which you're saying, these studies are being done and all of this stuff. When I go to a hospital today, and there's not so much emphasis on this emotions and mind-body connection. It's more like, here's the blood test, do the scan. Oh, the report says that this has gone wrong. Yes, start on these medicines. Not to sound like an anti-medicine guy, but like, why is it that even though there appears to be some scientific information available on this, why is this not getting why is not the case with the doctors? Why aren't they informed about this whole emotional part of it? And why aren't they doing something? But this is something that you need to do over here. You need to fix this, not pop a pill. But can you talk a little bit about these things?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of see, the thing, it's not a part of our medical curriculum. So a lot of research, which I'm talking about, has happened in the last 20 years. And the curriculum that is still being taught in the medical and surgery at the level of, your training is still very old. So, and a lot of times the sheer volume of patients that a clinician needs to see. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's almost like you're firefighting. Patients come at a point when they need only that is the ultimate intervention. Right. And there is nothing, this is very important. Medicine is very important. Surgery is very important. So the doctors are obviously, it's almost like a firefighter is now going to go and tell you about, why didn't you check your circuitry of the house? Was your electrical supply, established and restored well? Who managed you? All that a firefighter has to do when there's a fire is extinguish the fire, because he has to save lives, right? So we are firefighting in our system. And that's exactly the focus of our lives is. Leave things to the end, to the point of breakdown, that this is the only option available for us. And then people like me who decide, like one or two of our kinds who decide to completely migrate and shift out of conventional medicine, because I felt that doctors who are doing a great job there. I need somewhere to, do this, because this is important as well, as much, if not more. That people have to understand that, you can be the creator of your own well-being. My internet connection is unstable. Should I switch off my video, Rishi?
No, it's fine. It's fine. We are hearing you perfectly fine. I'm hearing you perfectly. Yeah.
Okay. So as I was talking about something called epigenetics, so the genetic code tells you that you're a victim of your genes. If this has got triggered in your family, you are going to have that.
Mm.
In the last 10, 15, 20 years, a science which is very powerful called epigenetics has come about.
Mm.
And epigenetics tells us that not every gene that we have is going to get expressed. That means you may have the breast cancer gene, but that doesn't necessarily mean you'll express it. What's more important about the expression of the gene is the environment in which that gene is bathed. If that, it's almost like the environment that's nourishing the gene. So if the gene is bathed in stressful environment, unloving, uncared for, a very hostile environment, then the chances of that gene expressing is 50 times more, or even 70% more than it being expressing if it is bathed in an environment which is of oxytocin induced, gentler and relaxation, because then that gene does not need to get triggered. So there is something above genes which is called epigenetics. Epi means upon. So there is a switch controlling the genes expression. And so that means we have a say in how our life will manifest, rather than just believing something like this would be a nocebo effect, and just actually manifesting that in our lives.
Okay.
And that's the power of our beliefs.
Okay. So I'd like to just take a quick pause here and say that, guys, if you all have questions, just raise your hand or just type it in the chat. I have just one question and then I'll switch to the audience. Okay. Can you talk a little bit about what you do and how you help people in this release of these blocked emotions or whatever this, this trauma and things like that? What are the things you do? I happen to know a few of them, but if you can just share with everybody what it is that you do to help people in this area.
So, Rishi, primarily my focus is on managing the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the physical body. So, we have to understand that our bodies, as I keep saying, are a very active, vital force that can actually store, and we saw that in the research. So our body is an energy field that can actually store emotions. And scientists like Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, all of them have done some cutting edge pioneering work to show us that the emotions that are stored and suppressed are actually massively contributing to the disease processes, and they contribute and they aggravate. So this is a space that I work in, body awareness, understanding how do we communicate with our body, understand what is it. So if I want to pick up my cup of water, I'll just make my hand go pick it up. It's a voluntary effect. Now, most of our body is involuntary, as I just said. If we really reflect, are we deciding what time the food is getting digested? When is it being converted into what? When is the liver releasing the enzymes to metabolize the fat? Or when is the heart deciding to, we don't do anything. It's all involuntary. And what is kind of influencing this involuntary aspect of our bodies is the autonomic nervous system. And subconscious mind is a huge kind of controller of this part of our bodies. And subconscious mind is the space that I work from. It's if I can ask you to think of an iceberg. So the part of the iceberg that's visible to the human eye is like a little bit, right? It's like the tip of the iceberg, literally.
Right.
That's almost the part of a conscious mind that we use. That's literally 5 to 10% barely. And the rest of our mind is like the iceberg, which is submerged. It's the subconscious mind that's actually operating our system. It's the operating system on which we are operating, So unless we upgrade our operating system, we are not going to be able to handle our habitual loops of stressful thinking, stressful manifestations in the body. So subconscious mind reprogramming through modalities like hypnotherapy, creative visualization, emotional freedom technique, where Chinese medicine talks about energy channels. We have channels in our body which are called energy meridians. Now, the thing is, if we are very fixated only on the conventional allopathic model, we will shun all other schools of medicine, which are so important. So we have energy channels that are flowing through us. We have energy centers. So all of these are what also can be influenced by the work that we do. right? So that's the space I have worked. I have got my research pilot published in international journal. I have presented my research in European journal, in British Surgical Oncology Society, and all my work is about understanding that we don't have to be overdosed with medication. We don't have to be, there's almost an opioid crisis that's happening in the West. People are getting addicted to pain medication because also there's a whole pharmaceutical angle here, right? If we don't get, so my research was not getting funded because everybody's, the pharmaceutical company wants to, get their own drugs out, so they want to fund their stuff. So for people like me who are telling, and people, you have to be as big as Dr. Joe Dispenza or Greg Braden to show that this matters. But I was fortunate that my research got picked up and got published because we were seeing the results of cancer patients in the hospital where I was working.
Okay.
We were able to subconsciously reprogram their mind through mindfulness and body work, where they were able to manage their symptoms, where they were able to influence their well-being and heal, a part of the healing journey. And a lot of times when I do mindfulness, I tell people, don't wait till a point of breakdown. You have to be able to understand that you have so much control. I would say control, but control is not the best word, but so much positive influence in the way that you can heal and feel and grow, and it's almost like, guys, let's upgrade our software. Otherwise, you're going to be just running in that old version and not access, what we are meant for, the highest and the best. So yeah, that's what I do. I practice EFT, as I said, emotional freedom technique. And I do coaching, So all that I'm saying to you, I do a lot of work on addictions, Rishi. A lot of times, addictions is again a space where when we feel powerless, we get addicted to substance or food or sugar, right?
Yeah.
So we have to understand why is that happening? Because somewhere the body is getting comfort, psychological, physical, emotional comfort in an addictive substance. So I do a lot of work related to addictions, where these are the coaching techniques that we use to help a person, really come out of this space. And yeah, it's if I discuss my work, we will need one more session, but this is just trying to introduce the tip of the iceberg and see that so much can be done.
So let's actually, maybe we've got 20 minutes left. Let me ask the audience here. Let me see if let me unmute the mics here. Okay, guys, you all can unmute your mics now. If anybody wants to ask Dr. Nupur a question about what they've heard so far, yes, Hasmukh, go for it. You raised your hand. You can even turn video on if you like.
Yeah.
So,
sound of dogs first.
Okay, Nupur, my question has to do with there are dogs barking in the background. Just bear with me.
No problem.
So, my question has to do with neuroplasticity. I do a lot of work in neuroplasticity, and I'm just trying to find out from you if you have worked with neuroplasticity and the role of neuroplasticity in the mind-body connection.
My God, thank you, Hasmukh. That was one point slipped my mind. When I was talking about epigenetics, I had thought I should talk about neuroplasticity. So I'm so glad you raised this point. And so what is neuroplasticity for a lot of our friends who may not know this? For the longest time, we thought our brains stop growing like our height. It becomes like a very static parameter that we all have. We stop growing height-wise at the age of 18. And people thought that our brain also stops developing after it has achieved a mature state up to a particular age. In the last few years, I would say 20 odd years, 15, 20, it could be even lesser. Hasmukh might know better because he's been working in that space. Neuroplasticity is telling us that our brain is not a static piece of meat. Our neural networks keep getting formed, keep getting arranged. We keep creating new neural pathways. And that's a big, big discovery in the whole paradigm of a human body in neuroscience. It's very encouraging. That means that we can influence our cognitive abilities, our cognition. Our cognition means our ability to understand, deal with things, and to perform and outperform ourselves. Now, when you learn how to, suppose as a child, you learn how to bike now, or cycle, right? Cycling is biking. So what happens is those neural pathways get created. It's almost like creating a clearing in a forest. It's creating a clearing in the forest so that every time you go on that path, it becomes a well-formed path. So that neural network gets ingrained and gets deepened in our consciousness. So now also after 20 years, you don't have to think. You may have not ridden a bike in 10 years. You hop onto it, you'll wobble a bit, but you'll be right there. Why? Because those neural pathways exist to create that path. But what happens is that a lot of times our neural pathways of stress related thoughts and emotions get hardened because we haven't practiced it any other way. So when we say happiness and joy and gratitude, they are muscles that we are building. Why we are saying that? Because those neural pathways are getting created through mindfulness. Now, why is mindfulness such a researched modality? Because in mindfulness, we have got evidence that we are creating new neural pathways. New neural synaptic connections are being formed. And that means our mind and our body are learning how to deal better through meditative practices to deal with our emotional upheavals, to deal with crisis, to deal with our own ruminative thoughts. Ruminative thoughts means thoughts which are going in circle, creating stress cycles. The response of fight and fright. So we are creating new neural pathways. So it's in fact, a lot of study of dementia is telling us by neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means something that is changing. We can change our brain. If we are picking up a new language today, we are creating new neural pathways, and that makes our brain more agile, more active. You learn a new instrument, you create neural pathways. So neural pathways is a very powerful way of actually dealing with a lot of our life crisis. And that's why we need to keep doing it.
But when you mentioned dementia, I didn't get the connection. What is the new?
So they are saying that because of, without getting too technical about the condition, they are saying now that a lot of research is coming up that by practicing and keeping our minds agile, by creating new neural pathways, we can actually prevent the onset of a lot of such degenerative conditions like dementia. So if we can create new neural pathways by keeping our minds more active and agile, we can actually ward off a lot of cognitive declines like dementia.
So the one of the reasons for dementia is because we're not building.
There are multiple biological reasons, but right now the research that's coming up is that this process could help in delaying.
And in the modalities that you do right now, EFT, hypnotherapy, and mindful practices and other things.
Mindfulness is all based on creating new neural pathways. So subconscious work is all about creating new neural pathways because you are releasing the old ways of dealing and reacting to stress and emotions. Now you're dealing with understanding how do you deal with emotions, how do you practice emotional hygiene, how do you deal with body, how do you communicate with body. See, there is one thing I want to tell everybody tonight when you go to bed. Try this out. If you don't have a flight to catch in the morning, tell your bodies, wake me up. Tell your minds, wake me up at so-and-so time. Don't put an alarm. And I can assure you, you will be woken up because there is an intelligence in the body that's listening to you all the time and that's communicating back. Cells are very intelligent. You may not get it on the first time, then I may not get it on the second time, but I can guarantee you will get it. You will be woken up without an alarm clock exactly at the time when you ask your body to do that for you. So our body is constantly listening to our subconscious. Our subconscious and our body are constantly communicating. But are we giving them the right signals? Are we taking the time to actually create those neural pathways? That's the question.
Okay, great. Hasmukh, did you have a follow-up question on your original question on neuroplasticity?
You're on mute, Hasmukh.
Oh, yeah, you're still muted. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Okay, yeah, it's not a follow-up question on neuroplasticity. It's a totally a new question, Nupur. I work with children, and also neuroplasticity says that most of the brain development happens in the first 10 years of the child. So my question to you would be, what can we do while working with children that the mind-body connections are formed in the first 10 years are so strong that as the children grow up, they have a very strong immune system, not just from a body perspective, but from a psychology, emotional perspective as well.
Right. So, building resilience, that's such an important thing in all of us, but especially children, because if there's only one thing that's certain in life, that's change. And we have to bring up children who are more resilient, who are more, emotionally and psychologically, more robust. So first 7 years to 10 years of our lives are very, very critical, as Hasmukh just said. And in fact, a lot of our subconscious reprogramming also happens at that age. So if there is something that I can say beyond children is actually making parents understand that don't pass on your limiting beliefs, don't pass on your biases to your children, because they are like sponges. Their subconscious mind has no filters at that age. They just soak it up. They just absorb it. So parents have to be very mindful. Parents have to be very clear about what beliefs, what narratives are being passed on from a family to the child, because a child is literally growing up in that environment. It's just soaking up like sponge. If there are parents who are aware enough and conscious enough to do conscious parenting, then it's very powerful. There's one thing which I do for children, which I can recommend highly for children, is positive engagement through creative visualization. Now, when you make a child, so creative visualization is a very, very powerful technique, which is a huge part of the work that I do in mind body medicine. For one reason, that is that our mind doesn't understand the real from the imagined. We have a lot of fMRI studies that are done. Now, if I ask you to see an apple, or if I ask you to see the color red, and then I ask you to imagine a color red, the same areas of the brain get lit up. Now, when this study came out, it was mind-boggling for the scientists. That means our brain centers are responding to imagination just as much as they are responding to the actual events. So that means that, see, when we can trigger stressful situations and responses just by thinking about this, people have panic attacks just by thinking about something, right? So why can't we create a state of homeostasis just by thinking about something positive? So Hasmukh, if I can really tell you something is, with children, talk to the parents more. The parents have to be mindful more than the children. They are just growing up. Is their time to be more, free and just be allowing to experience life. Secondly, I would say practice a lot of creative visualization techniques with children, and things like mindfulness. Not telling children to inherit our beliefs, not asking children to label things the way we label. When I do mindfulness workshops for children, I tell them that don't label a tree. You label it what you want to label it, and tell me what you would rather call this entity. Why should we tell a child to do and say things the way we want them to do? We have to encourage a generation which is so independent and so free from our restrictive thinking, that we have to enhance that in them. And the more we allow this to happen, the more their inner immunity will grow. They become more resilient, and posing children to pain is not a bad thing. When I was growing up, I always had a pet, and my pet died. I was not shielded from hurt, pain, and sadness. My parents let me feel loss. What does it mean? We are doing helicopter parenting. We are not letting our children get exposed to pain, to suffering. Take your children to orphanage. Tell them to see, how privileged they are, and see that, there is a whole section of society which is living in such underprivileged situations. So, let them face life, face what's going on without overtly being nasty and aggressive. Have a good balance of nurturing and, and reality. I think that's what's important. And that's exactly what I do in my workshops, what I do. But I would say creative visualization, we have had times when people have visualized a very strong immune system also with creative visualization. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: creative visualization is a workshop that you do for children or for parents? I just want clarity on that.
I do it for, I have been doing it for children, and I would want to do it for adults, because it's a superpower which has gone completely unnoticed in us. As I said, our brain doesn't know the real from imagined. So, we have to start understanding that we all have a superpower called creative visualization. We have to learn how to do that. And I teach it to adults as well. But my passion is to do it for children, because they just take it to like fish to water. They love fantasy anyways, and there's so much that we can do through creative visualization.
In fact, I should probably use this opportunity to just give a quick background on Hasmukh, because he's one of my mentors, and I think I know him for now almost a decade, and we got together on a project, and he has this fabulous project called Ebel, and I'll send you the website. It's ebel.org, ebhle.org, and I'll probably paste it down below this video, but because it's being recorded, I'll share it with even people who are watching it later. That his whole project is based around working with children and things like that. And I'm just thinking right now, Hasmukh, because we know each other for quite some time. Yeah, I wonder whether we need to focus. We don't have to be so worried about children because they're fine by their eyes. The parents that are the problem. So we should probably change the Able project for parents now.
That's my experience, guys, speaking. But please go ahead with whatever you've been doing. Yeah.
That's why I say Able is a residential program.
Right.
So the parents are
yeah. So the parents are not there, right? As part of your project, they're not going to be there.
No.
Like a boarding scene. Okay.
But having said that, parents have to go through the training.
Yeah. Because they need to probably find out what they need to do differently before they just okay, great, fabulous. Okay, guys, any other? Okay, there's one more.
Yeah, so I want to.
Isha, sorry, there's one question from Isha. Can I take a question from Isha?
Yeah, hi. So I just wanted to understand belief systems. How do you change? Like you were talking about parents. So as parents or as adults, if we understand there's some belief system which is not working, what do we do? How do we change? Like for a layman, what do we do?
Yeah. So Isha, thank you for that question. The very first thing is to understand that we have been operating on a belief system which is perhaps not the best. So the awareness of that is the most important thing. A lot of times we are almost like an autopilot. We are living our lives without even realizing to what extent our beliefs are actually stopping ourselves from going forward. It's nobody else, it's our own beliefs. The moment this awareness, and that's a big component of mindfulness training, is to build in cognitive awareness and metacognition. And the moment you start doing it, you'll be amazed that you will yourself find ways of contraindicating your own set beliefs and finding new empowering beliefs. You start doing pattern interrupts. So when you are going down a typical path, where you would be believing something, and then you would stop yourself, that now you have realized that you're believing this, and you stop yourself and you do a pattern interrupt. And that's what we teach, in the modalities that we practice, are doing pattern interrupt. And then by then choosing, because we all have a power of choice and power of cognition, we choose a more empowered and a more life affirming thought and an emotion that goes with thought. And then we tune into the body to feel that how is this feeling in our body, because the belief has become so ingrained that it has got those neural pathways that we talked about. So unless we genuinely start doing pattern interrupt and start creating new neural pathways, it will be very difficult to transition. But that's the process. First recognize, first find evidence. Why is this belief not helping us? With evidence, you'll be able to see that no, this is something that has to be changed. And then ask yourself, what is it that I can change? You start looking for other evidence, then you start shifting your awareness to something which is more life affirming, which is more behavior affirming. And when you start finding more evidence towards that, then you start working towards, like recently I've been working with a person who feels that women she's a woman and she's an entrepreneur, but somewhere in her psyche it's that women cannot build a multi-million-dollar business, and she's quite a successful entrepreneur. But that was a belief that was handed down in her family, which was patriarchal, that women can do business, but that's time pass. They cannot make a flourishing multi-million-dollar business. And she was like, this is a belief that I have only capped till this much. I'm not able to break this belief. So she recognized she was holding herself back. The market was not holding her back. The share market wasn't, her vendors weren't. She was holding her revenue and her figures back. And then we started doing the whole coaching. But awareness is the key thing. So, awareness, finding ways of contraing your old belief, finding ways of reaffirming new beliefs. Even if you don't take a help of a coach, you can do a lot of things on your own. So do research on how do you get over sabotaging beliefs and behaviors and biases. So you'll find. Otherwise, you can always contact me also, and I'll be more than happy to help.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Great.
Thank you.
So we are approaching 10 p.m. and I don't know if there are questions, I'm happy to take it in. But before that, I'd just like to check what's the best way for people to reach out to you. Is it that they should get to you and attend your next?
I have a website which is mindbasedtherapy.com. You can share the link of that. My number is there, and I'm on Instagram, Mindbased Therapy. Rishi, if you are here, you have got Rishi's email. You can contact Rishi through me. Me through Rishi, sorry. So that's also possible. So yeah, anything. I'm like always ready.
Okay, I'm pasting the website which you gave me, the phone number and the email address, so that they can get in touch with you. And for those of you that are watching the recording, it will be below this video. And this has been awesome. Looking forward to the next one. I think I've already written some ideas on chatting with you again. And these conversations are great. I was hoping that we'd have more questions from the audience, but I guess that's all we have for today. So, Nupur, thank you so much for chatting with us. And
my pleasure, Rishi. My pleasure. And if I can actually share with everybody that I am actually doing a mind-body medicine workshop in February. Okay. And if anybody would like to know more about that workshop, it's, you can contact connect.mindfulliving@gmail.com, or you can just WhatsApp me on my number. So, this is, again, a very powerful workshop that is being designed for cancer patients, their carers, and people who have chronic health conditions, and understand how we can positively impact our healing journey and, focus instead of illness to wellness, so that's the focus going to be on wellness. So that's coming up. And if you want to know more or have any questions, I'm sure Rishi has his email. You guys can contact Rishi, or you can contact me. So we'd be very happy to answer any questions.
So I just want to thank you. And hi. I just want to thank you because I'm also one of those people who believe totally in mind-body connection, and I also work with it. And I've seen results with cancer patients also.
Wow.
As well as people who suffer from Parkinson's disease.
Oh, okay.
So
amazing. Amazing. Yeah. This is so heartening to hear. Thank you.
The only problem is that I don't have a doctor degree, and nor am I famous like Bruce Lipton or Joe Dispenza. So that's my one, So thank you.
I would really say this is again a belief, we need to get over.
No, it's not my belief. When I speak to the doctors, they tell me, oh, it's okay. The doctors that I know, they'll just try to shut me off and say, we don't want to believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's all just specifically where cancer is concerned.
Well, yeah, but you know what? That's why go with evidence. Go with proof, do your research. And when I changed to this space, and when I started going into the mind-body medicine and I started approaching hospitals, I had to give a lot of evidence base to what I was saying. And once I was able to convince them, they let me in. Obviously, you are right. I have a doctor's degree, so it was easier for me.
Yeah.
But the thing is, a lot of times we are waiting for validation. If you can just speak to patients, help the patient, which I'm sure you're doing, and don't wait for that, that validation to come across. But, a lot of times I feel we waste time waiting for research evidence. And that's something which has happened very new in the last 200, 300 years of our evolution. Before that, the humankind never waited for evidence. There was so much intelligence in us that we just knew that this plant will help us in this healing, and this jari booty will help us in this. We are intuitive beings. We are multisensory beings. We trusted that, and the ability of elements to heal, body to heal. But so let's not wait just for science. And don't do anything foolish, anybody, but don't just be hung up on evidence. And trust, trust yourselves, and there is so much that I say we can do. So you're doing a great job, even if you're touching a few lives, and none of us can be Dr. Bruce Lipton. But having said that, please do check out some books. Even Hasmukh has recommended a lovely book. Please read that. It's Mind and the Brain. I have a few books I can recommend. I can recommend The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. That's a fantastic book. Then I have the Dr. Joe Dispenza's book. So many books. Louise Hay is another pioneering life coach who talks so much about mind-body connect. The reason I didn't mention her was my bad, because she's not a medical doctor, so my bias also comes in. But Louise Hay is again a fantastic coach. So guys, and she's no more. She had multiple cancers and she cured herself of those cancers.
Yeah, so there's one more person called Brandon Bay.
Brandon
The
Bay.
Journey. Yeah, so I'm a journey practitioner, basically.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, but before we end, I have one request from my friend Anil. Anil was like, I think he joined in a little late, but he was saying, can Nupur give just a little history of her life? I know you covered that in the beginning. You would be okay to just share again about your background, a little bit history.
Hi. Is that Anil who asked?
Anil, yes, Anil. He's my other mentor. He's my first mentor. That's why I'm making the request.
No, absolutely. See, I have kept 1.5 hours, so I'm in no rush.
Right.
I don't. So yeah, since I'm off that whole clinical grind of seeing 100 patients in a day, I have more time and leisure in life now. Thank God for small mercies. So Anil, just to tell you a bit about myself, I was practicing conventional medicine. I was doing conventional medicine when I was working in India. I'm now at the moment in London, but I do work between geographies. So I am also working in India on a lot of projects. I specialized in oral cancer. I was doing a lot of work in oral cancer. I worked in a multi-speciality hospital in Bangalore, Dr. Devi Shetty's Narayan Hridayalaya. That's where I was working for some time. I was very passionate about medicine. I started, I think by the age of 14, I knew cardiac more than my parents are doctors. I knew cardiology better than my dad and mom knew cardiology because I was just passionate. I felt that this body is miraculous. People used to have, they used to study books and fairy tales and all. I used to study anatomy and physiology at that age. My parents, that's also because, I grew up in that environment, as Hasmukh was talking about, the environment of parents and that energy field of medicine. But the more I read, the more mind-bogglingly amazing our human body appeared to me. How can one cell manifest? And if you study that's why it takes years to get a specialist degree. And it's such a miraculous piece of, this whole body is so miraculous that if one part is not working, we know we can't function no matter who you are. You could be the Prime Minister, the President of United States of America or India. If the body is not working, you can't function. And it takes a lot to get this magical equipment to work for us. We don't even know how the nail grows. We don't even know how the hair grows. What do we know? We know nothing. And this kept getting me into deeper and deeper into this whole, what is it? It can't be a dumb, instrument. It has to be a very intelligent field. And then when I was practicing, two of my patients slipped into something called near-death experience. Just after anesthesia, they got into something which they typically reported things which they were not supposed to know. They were not supposed to know what was going on in the consultation room. They were on the bed, they were recovering, they were in anesthesia. So the near-death experience happened to some patients, and then they shared that with me. And because I was a person who was very interested in science, quantum physics, energy field, I heard them. A lot of people said that is because of the combination of the cocktail of drugs that was given to them. But I knew that they're saying something that was different. So, my journey has always been a little different from a very conventional cut open seal doctor or surgeon. And that's when I started realizing that, my path has to be different. I wasn't happy doing what I was doing. I was connecting with people at a more heart level, at a more soul level. And that's when I came to London, I decided to train into mind-body medicine. I did mindfulness training. I did medical hypnotherapy. I trained as a cancer coach. And there's so much that, I have been doing, and quantum physics has been one of my studies. I'm an Advaita philosopher. I believe in Advaita. I'm a meditator. I follow Ramana Maharishi, and I have my guru. So for me, the whole journey is about kind of combining science and spirituality together. and understanding that we are not limited to the mind-body complex. We are a much, much bigger force of energy field. We are the universe in this form, and we are the form in the universe, and the more I'm working in this space, the more I'm realizing that I've trained with Anita Moorjani. Anita Moorjani is a lady who has had, she cared herself for stage 4 cancer. She had lymphoma, stage 4 cancer. She had tumors the size of lemons, and she recovered. She's in remission. She's thriving. She's a coach. And I've had the privilege of training with her in this mind-body medicine space. So, I think I'm blessed because I live my passion and I work through my passion. And now I'm completely in this space. I conduct workshops for patients, for families, for normal human beings like you and me, for corporates also. Been called by a lot of corporates to do a lot of well-being and mindfulness events now, and I do one-to-one coaching. So that's me in a nutshell, and I hope I didn't bore you.
Not at all, at least not me.
No, actually, Nupur, I was hoping you would offer, a little bit more personal, like, when you were born, what happened, and then I take it you don't live in paradise anymore. You left and went to London.
No, I'm half the time in that paradise only. I'm a Delhi girl. I'm half the time in Delhi, Bangalore, Pune, and half the time here. So I'm quite delighted.
So you were born in Delhi then, and you went to school and college and everything there?
Yes, that's right. And then I moved to London, yeah.
I see. What took you to London, if that's not being too personal?
Well, maybe that's a conversation for one-to-one with Rishi, you and me, and then on another forum.
That'd be outstanding. Outstanding.
Yeah, so I think we should definitely connect over one of our, Rishi and I keep meeting over coffee on Zoom. So let's do a coffee on Zoom conversation there.
That is definitely going to happen. Anil, you're right.
Deal. I'll take time out of my busy life. Absolutely.
We'll be privileged. So thank you for all of you who have stayed back.
Right.
So sweet of you and so nice of you all to stay.
Sorry, Hasmukh, say that again. I missed that.
Count me in on that coffee Zoom call.
Yes, of course. You and Anil are default. Great. But
thank you very much, Nupur. That was really outstanding. And the conviction and passion in your eyes are quite inspirational. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And if I can just say to everybody who has waited all this time that, please know that you are a lot more than who you think. Don't let anything ever pull you down. We are magical beings. We have the power to heal anything that we are going through. So just trust that and know there is a lot of help. All that you need to do is think out of the box and reach out. And so much help will be given.
Nupur, you've already done that. I've realized my problem is my relationship with Rishi. Is all my grief, all my envy, all my unhappiness because he has such an incredible life. I'm going to stop talking to the idiot.
Rishi, I have just one more request.
Yes.
For you too. If you can do one more session,
yeah,
which is linking with quantum mechanics.
Quantum mechanics.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We'll do that. We've actually got a list. I have to just share with everybody before we go that when we started talking, we should talk about this and then suddenly I was share with her something. She said, Rishi, that's another topic we can talk about. So we've got already like 5 episodes planned. This is now the 6th one. So we'll try and make that something sooner if Nupur is okay with that. But
I'm always game. I'm half of the time studying that because it has such deep implications in my work. Okay. I cannot not know that. So yeah, this is also would love to do that. Thank you for the suggestion.
Fabulous. And so again, I also want to just add here that thank you so much for sticking around. I mean, I can see that 14 number hasn't gone down. It's been like stuck there for a while. So that's great. And so we will be in touch. We will be sharing with you the things that we want to talk about. And in fact, it is because of you guys attending and participating and being on the call that's actually motivating us to do more of this. And this, we haven't yet put a schedule, and I think we don't want to put a schedule. We definitely want to do a series of these talks for sure, but we wanted to be flowing rather than, holy shit, the date is coming, we better have all the stuff ready to talk about in the next session. So we don't know when the next date is, but I'm hoping it will be at least once a month. If we can do 2 a month, that'll be awesome. But that's, I think, what we're looking at. But great. This is awesome. Thank you so much for the feedback. And we'll see you guys in the next session. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Rishi and
Thank
Nupur.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. Thank you.